social media has been a frenzy. It's been a frenzy in terms of financially. It's a multi-trillion-dollar industry. It continues to explode. We've had the Facebook IPO, listing on the stock exchange. We've had social media expanding rapidly, and we've had companies almost being pulled into it because they've had no choice but to do so. But all things kind of go in cycles, and recent research from Forrester has actually started to kind of bring out a bit of a unwanted truth about social media in terms of how well it's working for business. And this has actually prompted changes within Facebook and Twitter particularly, and other of the big social media companies. But essentially, the nutshell is it's not working as well as they thought it was in terms of businesses. It simply is not delivering the return on investment as expected. And a lot of the information is being wasted. So Forrester did a research report in 2014, which is freely available on the web. And they said a couple of things which were quite, on one hand, alarming, but at the end of the day, we have to take statistics and work with them. But what they basically said was that only 2% of Facebook and Twitter posts are even seen. This is not even before anybody reacts to them, but are even seen. So yes, if you start comparing the numbers, we start realizing that, for every 1,000 likes that you have, and most businesses, small businesses, have barely got that many, you're only going to get 20 people who even see it. And the worst thing is that only 0.1%, if you're lucky, are even going to respond to it or react to it in some way. And these figures are dropping. So what is actually happening now is it's turning the approach around, and businesses are starting to realize, and Facebook particularly is realizing, that we have to move away from the kind of pages being business pages and move away to social media as an advertising platform. And that's essentially what is happening now. It's moving in towards a paid for advertising space, which is also better for Facebook and Twitter, et cetera, because they want the advertising revenue. So there's definitely a big shift going on. And, the statistics are definitely saying that, social media is not working, is not justifying the expense. Email is still the lifeblood of the internet. And in fact, email is a minimum of 13 times more likely to generate leads and bring in new business than social media. I mean, that's 1,300%. That's huge. So what we're looking for here is the opportunity to go back to email in a way. And bearing in mind, Sonia, as well, another very important point is that with social media, especially with Facebook and Twitter, etc., you don't own your data. So you spent an absolute fortune feeding their data machine, which you don't own. Yet with your email database, which we believe should be your kind of core fundamental focus on your kind of digital, we believe that Facebook and Twitter and your various social media platforms should plug into your email and not the other way around. And this is essentially, so we're not saying this social media. I don't want to come across that way. We're just saying be a little bit more clever about it and make sure you have your email database that you can own, manage, and control. After the big hype of social media and the IPO listing, et cetera, and this huge frenzy of social media, Gartner talks about something called the trough disillusionment, which is when reality kicks in. And it's like, okay, now we have this big beast, but is it really doing what we wanted it to do? And how do we look at it? So it then comes from the trough of disillusionment into what they call the plateau of productivity, which is always well lower than the cycle, the original upcycle. And according to Gartner, Facebook, Twitter, social media are really starting to get into what we call the trough of disillusionment. In other words, it's a wake-up call for businesses.